Today's movie kicks off thousands of years ago with a powerful kingdom called Akkad, which was located in the Mesopotamia region, modern-day Iraq. Their elite warriors were known as the Black Scorpions, and because of their massive bravery, they were appointed as guards for the emperor himself throughout the years. Now, the most famous warrior among the Black Scorpions was Ashur, and he was totally against his son Matthias taking part in the Black Scorpion trials because they were super dangerous and he could die. But as kids usually do back then, Matthias doesn't listen to his dad and signs up for this brutal test, which is basically a massive brawl between 24 teenagers, where the 12 left standing are the ones who get to join the Black Scorpion Legion. Leading these trials is an elite warrior named Sargon, who makes it clear to them that the 12 winners will be trained for 6 whole years first before actually joining the Legion. The fierce battle begins among everyone, and Sargon was constantly pushing them toward violence, telling them that mercy is basically weakness in war. But during the fight, Matthias is shocked to find that his childhood friend Layla is participating in the trial and covering her face because, obviously, girls aren't allowed to kill in the first place. That's why as soon as Sargon notices her, he goes and rips the mask off her face and was about to hit her. Matthias steps in and tries to defend her, but of course he's nothing compared to Sargon. But that's just for now. Stay with me until the end, and I'll show you how this kid is going to turn out. He ends up running away and causing a mess with the guards chasing him, but in the end, they manage to grab him. Obviously, Sargon isn't happy with what happened and wants to punish him, but that's when Ashur steps in to defend his son. It's clear Sargon hates him, and they start fighting right away. We see that both of them are incredibly strong, but Ashur wasn't fighting to win. He just wanted to take his son and get out of there. But suddenly, everyone stops because the king of Akkad, Hammurabi, shows up. Sargon starts acting all humble and says to him, "These people insulted me, O king. Insulting the commander of your armies, is that okay?" So the king decides to let Matthias join the Black Scorpions, saying if he has even half the courage and strength of his father Ashur, he'll be able to protect the nation well. But of course, this doesn't sit well with Sargon, whose eyes suddenly change in a weird way, and he vows that Ashur won't escape punishment. Since Sargon's hatred for Ashur has no limits, he decided to use magic. Matthias suddenly wakes up to the sound of his father's screaming, and when he enters the room to check on him, he's shocked to see a huge swarm of scorpions on his body, killing him in a very tragic way. Even though he didn't see who did it, Matthias was certain Sargon was the reason. Because of that, from that day on, he made a vow to himself to become a powerful warrior so he could come back and get his revenge. We actually see Matthias training in an isolated place for Black Scorpion teenagers. And we notice the training is super intense and brutal for their age. But that's what makes Matthias stand out among everyone for 6 whole years. Matthias, who left Akkad as a kid, is now returning as a strong young man and a fighter. As soon as he and the group he trained with enter the castle gates, everyone stands up to cheer and greet them because they are the new generation of Black Scorpions who will protect the kingdom. Afterward, Matthias meets his mom, who hasn't seen him in 6 years, and he's also happy to see his little brother Noah has grown up into a fine young man. He also finds Layla, his childhood friend, coming from a distance to say hi, and they were still in love with each other just like before. But what really ruins the fun for Matthias is when he discovers that during his absence, Sargon managed to kill King Hammurabi and took his place. But nobody says that out loud so they don't get punished, and they just put up with Sargon's injustice. Of course, as soon as Sargon sees Matthias, he goes over to mess with him a bit and says, "I hope you become a strong warrior like your father, because I have a very special mission for you." Matthias goes to the palace at night to see what he wants exactly, and he finds him practicing combat with his men, absolutely crushing them with total cruelty. He notices Matthias is standing there looking at his men and wondering about the many tattoos they have. Sargon explains to him that when they kill someone, they get a tattoo as a mark of pride. At that moment, we notice the huge difference between the mindsets of the two. Matthias might kill normally, but only someone who deserves it, while Sargon thinks everyone deserves to be killed anyway. The only question is when, where, and how. Generally, he decides to appoint Matthias as his personal bodyguard, but before he takes this honorable position, he has to prove his loyalty first. This is by killing anyone Sargon tells him to, without a second thought. Matthias waits until the next day to see who the chosen person is, But he's shocked afterward that he brought his brother Noah and tells him, "You must kill him if you really want to prove your loyalty." But Matthias refuses, of course, and breaks the chain to let his brother escape, staying behind to fight the guards. But Noah refuses to leave his brother alone and decides to help him as much as he can. Honestly, Matthias was doing more than enough. He was slicing through Sargon's followers with total ferocity and decisiveness. He then looks at Sargon himself with rage and tells him, "You killed my father, and the time for reckoning has come." But when he throws the spear at him, the big shock happens. He's surprised that Sargon uses magic and stops the spear in midair, and was even going to kill him with it. So Matthias decides right then to take his brother and escape immediately, because things turned out to be bigger than he expected, and he wasn't ready for this. Even though they got really far from the palace on a horse, Sargon launches a magical arrow he set a certain spell over, which makes the arrow work literally like a tracking missile, penetrating anything until it reaches Matthias's horse. The result is that it hits Noah in the back with full force. In the middle of the desert, once they put enough distance, Matthias stops to check on his brother, but he's devastated to find him breathing his last breaths. His little brother, whom he just saw after a 6-year separation, is gone at the hands of the same man who deprived him of his father in the past. This, of course, filled the young Matthias's heart with even more hatred. The next day, he decides to continue his way, but he bumps into Layla and finds out she escaped the kingdom too. This, my friend, is considered the first independent woman known to history because she sees that the life of women in the kingdom isn't great, and she wants to live an adventure like the Arabian Nights, just like the men. But despite all this nice talk, Matthias refuses to let her join him on the journey because it'll be dangerous for her. He leaves her afterward and goes to a border area to get a ticket to Egypt, because our country at that time was the cradle of civilizations. And if he really wants to counter Sargon's magic, he'll definitely find the answer in Egypt. But as soon as Matthias gets on the boat, he's surprised by Layla's presence and understands that she's now a reality and will be with him on the adventure. He sits down then and tells her that his father fought as a personal guard for the pharaoh before and saved his life. So I'm going to go ask him if I can borrow the legendary Spear of Osiris from him so I can defeat Sargon with it. Right then, one of the people on the boat named Ari hears them. He's a wise guy who reads many languages. Because of that, he tells Matthias, "Your plan is going to fail before it even starts, because that Spear of Osiris only works against Egyptian monsters. Meaning if you have a battle with the Sphinx or Khufu, you'll find it useful, but for our Iraqi brothers, it won't work." Matthias wonders how he knows this and asks him. Ari explains to him that he's a great writer, speaks 20 languages, and has read many books about Egyptian civilization. Because of that, he tells him, "If you want to defeat Sargon's magic, my dear friend, you need the Sword of Damocles. This sword is a legendary one that slays anyone, whether mortal or even immortal. But the problem is that this sword was given as a gift to the queen of the underworld, and it's hard to reach. But all Matthias cares about is that the sword cuts through anything, and he wants to reach it. Because of that, he decides to have Ari join his dangerous journey because he's the one who'll be able to guide him to the gate of the underworld. They all actually reach Greece, specifically at an old palace located there. Layla manages at that time to trick the palace guards so they can enter. Ari then informs them that they must look for the labyrinth of Crete inside the palace, because it's the only way to the entrance of the underworld. But as soon as they enter the palace, more than one guard comes out at them. Matthias stands to fight them with his sword in great strength until Ari and Layla manage to open a certain door. They all enter through it, but are shocked afterward that this door drops them into the palace's private prison pit. Matthias tries to talk to the prisoners he saw, but nobody answers him. He then speaks to them in Greek, and one of them actually responds. It turns out these prisoners were kidnapped from many countries for one goal only, which is to be served as a feast for the Minotaur. The Minotaur, my friend, is a crazy monster, half man and the other half bull, and every morning he has to eat a few humans for breakfast. Of course, the king sees that the Minotaur protects the city, and that's why he serves him humans every day as a heavy meal. Despite all this terrifying talk, Matthias stands bravely and offers the prisoners to join him and fight the Minotaur. Of course, he was communicating with them through Ari, who speaks their language. But all this talk was useless because they were all scared of him. Matthias and Layla decide to go out and scout the situation around them. But then one of the prisoners gets up to talk to Ari because he recognizes Matthias. When he finds out who his father is, he confirms his identity and asks all the prisoners to get ready to support him against the monster. As for Matthias and Layla, they enter the labyrinth and see a person tied up and very scared, to the point that as soon as Matthias unties him, the man takes off running immediately. Matthias then understands what exactly that man was scared of because he sees the Minotaur monster in front of him and realizes how difficult the matter actually is, especially since the monster is playing with him and Layla like they're nothing to him. At that point, he was about to finish off Layla, but the prisoners show up at the right time. Despite their attempts to take him down, the situation was almost impossible, and the monster was killing them one by one with total ease. Matthias gets upset at what's happening and runs at full speed to plunge the sword into the monster, finishing him off completely. He returns to Layla quickly because she got injured in her leg, but he reassures her and asks her to stay here until he gets back. Then the prisoner who recognized him comes to him and tells him that he participated in the war with his father back in the day, and Asher managed to save him. So he decided to settle his debt now. But when he finds out they're going to the underworld, he gets very worried and decides to withdraw with his men because they might die. But Ari, with his eloquent words, manages to control the man and makes him finally accept this dangerous cooperation. They all keep wandering in the labyrinth until they find a room full of ancient engravings. As soon as he reads one of them, the world around them starts getting destroyed in a weird way until the room itself falls apart into many stones. They find themselves on a high concrete pillar in the middle of a vast, empty land. They understand they've entered the underworld, and everyone gets nervous. But Matthias remembers his father's words when he used to tell him to follow his destiny no matter the cost. As soon as he puts his foot outside the pillar, a stone comes out to catch him right away. But when he repeats it again, he falls to the ground. And everyone is shocked to find the pillar is very close to the ground, not high up like it was at the beginning. They all go down after feeling a bit reassured, and Matthias now understands that the normal laws don't apply in this world. Anyway, Ari then pulls out an hourglass to wear around his neck and tells everyone that humans can only live in the underworld for 1 hour. And after that, the person's body turns into stone instantly and they die. But of course, the Greek prisoners don't understand the words he's saying. Anyway, at this time we notice Sargon is standing in front of a magical bowl through which he can monitor Matthias. He wanted to know how he would get out alive with those with him after entering the most dangerous of all worlds, especially since in the underworld, nobody can predict what will happen. We see this more when many tree trunks appear literally out of nowhere around Matthias and his team, as if they turn the place around them into a small forest. Ari asks them then to dirty their faces and clothes with dust, because this world is forbidden to the living, and if they're recognized, they'll die instantly. They keep walking after that among the weird trees, until suddenly one wraps around Ari's leg and was going to pull him. But the prisoner gets rid of it with the sword immediately and saves him. But also along the way, they notice living dead in a very strange way, to the point that Matthias himself sees his father in front of him and was going to be affected. But Ari comes to him immediately and asks everyone not to look into their eyes, because that way they'll be exposed to magic and die. This is actually what started with one of the prisoners, and he disappeared from among them. This move made the atmosphere more tense until they stop Ari and ask him about the path to the sword. But the problem is Ari doesn't know its location exactly, so they'll keep walking until they find a sign and hope God blesses them. Anyway, one of the prisoners finds some gold pieces and runs to them with total greed, but a giant insect appears and eats him instantly without any warning. Then the oldest prisoner notices they are disappearing one by one, so he decides to leave Matthias and stay back to see what the deal is. As for Matthias and the three with him, they reach the gate of a mysterious and scary-looking cave. They decide to enter, and then the princess of the underworld, Astarte, appears to them and asks what they're doing here. But when they lie to her, she makes them all kneel on the ground. Matthias refuses to do that at the time, so she turns on him and says, "I am the princess of love and war. Whoever looks into my eyes falls in love with me and follows my orders without question." Layla gets up to mock her and says, "I mean, any any woman can make a man fall for her, what's new? As for Matthias, he decides to let them fight, and he and the others go look for the sword. Ari and the last prisoner actually managed to find it in an isolated room, and it was floating in the air. As for Princess Astarte, when she felt Layla was getting the upper hand in the fight, she decided to use magic and actually punish her. But here Matthias steps in and tries to hit her just so she leaves her alive. She offers him then to let his friends leave here alive, and in exchange, he stays with her forever. But when he refuses, she was going to kill Layla, but he saves her at the last moment. Ari also comes to him and throws him the sword and asks him to leave quickly from here. Matthias and those with him then manage to reach the pillar at the set time, but the oldest prisoner unfortunately runs out of time, turns to stone, and dies instantly. As for Princess Astarte, she shows up at Sargon's room, and we discover that she's the one providing him with magical power to achieve his desires. She tells him about Matthias, who stole the sword from her place, and she wants to get it back by any means. Sargon asks her to give him more power so he can control the situation. The princess of the underworld actually agrees and gives him power far greater than what he has. Anyway, when daylight comes, Matthias and his friends are on the journey back to Akkad after taking the legendary sword they came for. During the journey, Matthias declares his great love for Layla and knows that she loves him too. Anyway, when night comes, Sargon decides to pay the price for the new power to Princess Astarte, which consists of a sacrifice of the poor people in the city. He'll gather them all in one place and set them all on fire. As for Matthias, those with him have arrived in front of the city. The Chinese prisoner with them wants to leave and go back to his country, but Ari manages to convince him and keeps him with them. As soon as they enter the city, they see Sargon's soldiers hitting people. Matthias calls over a little boy to understand what's happening from him, and finds out then that Sargon ordered everyone to go to the city arena without question. He decides right away to take Ari and go look for Sargon, and he leaves Layla with the Chinese guy to check out the arena situation. They actually go to the palace gate, and he tells the guards quite frankly, "I'm here to kill Sargon." When they raise their swords, he gives them just one hit with his legendary sword, breaking them all, and only then do they fear him and let him and Ari pass. As for Layla, as soon as she reaches the arena and sees the situation, she understands everything, that Sargon is preparing for the biggest massacre known to human history, especially when the place gets filled with fuel and they lock all the exit doors on the people. At that time, Matthias and Ari enter the palace looking for Sargon. Ashur appears again then and tries to influence his son Matthias, insisting that he's real. Ari sits far away like that, writing down what he's saying as documentation. Do you think this is the time for that, wise man? Anyway, Ashur was almost getting the better of Matthias and reminding him of their memories together. As soon as he puts his hand on the legendary sword, it turns out it's Sargon using magic. He flies the sword out of his hand, and it lands near Ari. The two then decide to go against each other in a hand-to-hand fight, and this is obviously not in Matthias's favor much, especially since Sargon is very violent and has a strong physical build. But despite all that, Matthias endures and tells him, "I'm not just fighting for my father's right anymore. I'm fighting to stop your injustice and tyranny forever." He gets more encouraged and starts initiating very powerful punches and kicks, to the point that Sargon is affected and steps back a few paces. At that point, Ari appears holding the sword between the two of them and hesitating until Sargon asks him for the sword. He negotiates with him to give him jewelry in exchange. He actually gives him a bag of jewelry and takes the sword, while Matthias is in total shock. But Ari justifies it at the time and says, "Sorry, this is a treasure that'll make me rich. Plus, I have a story to tell. Nothing is more beautiful than that, honestly, for a writer like me." He leaves them and walks out while Matthias is stunned by this betrayal. On the other side, at the same time, things weren't any better for Layla either, especially since she and the Chinese prisoner are trying to stop the fire for the people with all their energy. But what's weird on the other side is that when Sargon tries to kill Matthias, he finds the sword broke in his hand. Here, Ari surprises us all and comes in to throw the original sword to Matthias, so he understands he was tricking him just to buy them more time, nothing more. When Sargon sees the sword, he gets worried because he knows its capabilities well. He starts saying a certain spell that changes his form in a weird way, and he disappears. Matthias goes after him with extreme caution, But despite that, he takes a hit to his stomach that sends him flying far away. At that moment, King Sargon's back appears transformed into a giant black spider, and he starts attacking Matthias from every direction, destroying anything in his path. Matthias tries to escape then, because the place started catching fire and will collapse completely from the intensity of the blaze. He also gets thrown outside the place and loses the sword. Only then does the spider manage to give him a powerful blow to his chest. But despite that, Matthias pulls himself together as much as possible. But the problem is that this blow poisoned his body and he started losing his strength and might die. As for the Chinese prisoner, he sees Sargon's followers throwing fiery arrows at gasoline and lighting up the arena. Layla calls out to him to help her before the fire reaches the walls, because the walls are full of gasoline, and then everyone will die. At that time, Matthias manages to get up again to end the story forever. He sees then where the legendary sword is, and decides to grab it quickly before the spider sees him and kills him. Layla and the Chinese prisoner also manage to put out the fire quickly with dirt and save the people from a certain tragic death. In the same vein, Matthias decides to throw some gasoline on the scorpion so it can't disappear again. He lures it until he grabs the sword and stabs it in its face while telling him that this stab is for his father, the brave warrior Ashur. At that point, the spider turns into Sargon's form and finally dies forever. Princess Astarte then appears in front of Matthias, who is dying from the poison. She takes the sword from him easily and informs him that she must kill him because he stole her sword. But Matthias was totally over it and tells her, "You're going to see me at your place soon anyway because I'm dying." Astarte then decides to leave him and disappears from the place instantly. All this is under the gaze of Ari, who faints right then. Anyway, after 3 days, Matthias wakes up and finds himself fully recovered. As soon as he sees Ari, he grabs him, remembering his betrayal. But Ari reminds him of exactly what happened, that he's the one who carried him here and saved his life. Matthias actually calms down, especially when he sees Layla, the love of his life, is doing fine. Generally, Hammurabi's son is appointed as the new king over Akkad in a legitimate way. Matthias stands listening to his speech with Layla and finds out from her that Ari left a message for him and decided to leave. But when he looks at the message, he laughs and understands that he went to look for another adventure. As for Matthias, he didn't want any more adventures or war. All he wants now is to live with Layla in peace for what's left of his life. But the problem is that the scorpion's blood is still running in his blood. Because of that, we see Matthias at the end standing in the desert, and it looks like he's returning to the underworld to Astarte. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and smash the bell to wait for the next adventure as soon as it drops. I hope you liked the summary, and as usual, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if it's your first time seeing us so you can see all the upcoming summaries. See you in the next movie.